It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. So welcome to the Morning Marketing Machine, and I'm very excited today because we have a special guest. So Mason Bendigo is here. So he's the host of the Breathin Air Podcast. So he's an ex-collegiate athlete at Lindenwood University. He's got a degree in sports management. Currently a medical device sales rep for Arthrex. He's passionate about helping people see their true potential and combining mental, physical, and spiritual aspects to enrich their lives and the lives around them. So thank you so much for coming on, Mason.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. So for people that don't know, if you can kind of tell us a little bit about like how you got started with all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Breathin Air was something that was a combination of a lot of things that came into one and formed one idea. And the idea was at the beginning of the year, I was thinking, okay, what are going to be my New Year's resolutions? And I'm big on goal setting and I'm big on these things. And the idea of New Year's resolutions was always interesting to me because I'm like, why is it that one time out of the year do people want to set goals? Obviously, cool, it's a new year, you have a fresh start, but why is it that one time out of the year you want to set goals? And I was just thinking about all of these things that I had in my head, all of these business ideas, all of these different aspects of who I wanted to be as a person, how I wanted to make a mark, what was my passion, those kind of things. And it all kind of rolled into what Breathin Air is. And kind of the concept behind the Breathin Air podcast and why it's called that is Breathin Air, everyday action, extraordinary mindset. So the action thing was big for me because I had, like I said, these ideas, but they were staying in my head and they weren't being manifested into real life. So this one saying came into my head and it was stop talking, start doing. And that kind of birthed the idea of this podcast. I worked a lot. I work in medical device sales, as you said, for orthopedic surgeons. So I was driving and traveling quite a bit. And a lot of my time was spent listening to podcasts while I was in the car. And I found that these podcasts were enriching my life in positive ways, were helping me with, mental side of things, business side of things. I was being entertained. I was laughing. I was learning things that I didn't know before. And I also knew that I had a passion for helping people and I had a gift to be able to communicate. There's a saying that I like that's own your gifts, own your gaps. So own what you're good at and use it to the best of your potential, and then own the things that you're not good at and do whatever you can to get better at them. So that all kind of snowballed into this idea of breathing air. And breathing air is something that we do every single day, obviously. We have to do it. It's essential to living, but it's something that we do subconsciously, right? So when we're breathing, we're not really realizing it. It's something that is done and it's a necessity to life, but we're not actually realizing it. And that's kind of where that concept came from, was the fact that a lot of our habits and a lot of the things that we do that roll into weeks, months, years, and decades are things that we've programmed our minds to do subconsciously, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. So that's kind of the deeper meaning behind Breathin Air. But it's also just to be a breath of fresh air to people that are listening, to be able to, like you said, enrich their lives. And also along this journey, it's been enriching my life because I've been able to speak to people like yourself and other people who know more than I do in certain areas. And it's helped my life and enrich my life. And in turn, I'm hoping that what I'm doing is enriching other people's lives as well.
So that's really awesome. And I know, obviously, like I've been on your show, and it's one thing I love in terms of like how you have that set up. Like I know, I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but like the idea of habits and like obviously like books are a big part of what I do, and you obviously talk about that way more if we want to, but like
Yeah.
Atomic Habits talks about that same idea of like you're a slave to your habits, so make them good habits, that kind of thing. And that's like obviously what you're talking about with your podcast. And I know when I was on your podcast, I had a great time as we're kind of digging into that stuff. So it's just awesome what you're doing with that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. There's a crazy stat that I heard about. The average CEO reads upwards of 30 to 40 books a year. So if you think about that in terms to even me, myself, when I hear that stat, I'm like, whoa. I mean, I haven't picked up nearly as many books as that. I don't even think I read 60 books in college for 4 or 5, where I was required to read books, right? So that kind of sparked another little flame in me as well. And I actually had a podcast with a guy by the name of Tommy Breedlove the other day. He's a USA Best Time and New York Times bestselling author of a book called Legendary. And he basically, one of his number one things that he spoke on when I'm asking him, he's climbed the corporate ladder and done all these things and then branched off into helping other people. But one of the biggest things that he said that helped enrich his life and helped him along his path was reading. He said the number one thing is consuming positive things, consuming books, consuming podcasts. And we even kind of veered off into the talk about social media and the things that you're consuming on a daily basis. You can even go back to, is it subconsciously the people you surround yourself with? The stuff that you're continuously taking in, is it feeding into your life or is it sucking from your life? And I'm big into fitness and taking care of your body and health. And we can talk about some adversities I've had with that along the road. But as a collegiate athlete too, that was always a huge focal point for me. So I like this analogy because it works for me, but I think it kind of breaks it down. If you think about the content that you consume on a daily basis, whether that's social media or the people that you're around, and you think of it as calories, right? So a cheeseburger from Wendy's is not the same as some grilled chicken and sweet potatoes or asparagus or veggies, right? They're different calories, and what you're consuming is quality calories or quality content or trash, garbage in, garbage out, right? So you eat the cheeseburger 10 times a week, you're going to get fat. You pour into your body and your mind shitty things, you're going to have that outcome. So it's kind of like empty carbs, empty calories. And I even find myself in that habit of scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, or getting drugged down by people that are around you, or becoming your surroundings. It's a very, very important thing that I think if you actually be honest with yourself and look yourself in the mirror and say, are these things enriching my life? Are they helping me along my path? Are they helping me achieve goals? And oftentimes the answer is no. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I don't think I've heard it said that way before, but I know I've heard the idea of like when you're looking at your mind, and obviously like mindset's something I've been really passionate about for a little while too. And if you're looking at obviously like the physical, that's what everyone looks at in general. It's like, oh, I got to exercise, I got to do that, like you were talking about, but you don't really think about it as it relates to your mind. But when you were talking about the idea of the 5 people around you, like I've heard that saying many times before. If you're looking at your life, and you're going to want to surround yourself with the negativity, or you're going to look at what's going to have a positive impact on you. Like ultimately, I think that's what drives what I think like 90% of your results is your mindset. And are you going to look at that negative thing and drag you down? Like I would honestly like 95% of people do. Or are you going to look at it from that positive aspect of like, what can I do to level up? And like you were saying, so that's really awesome. I like that approach a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to think about it. And you said it in the bio when I sent you the bio, is about body, mind, and spirit, right? So I believe that those are the 3 cornerstones to living a healthy, quote unquote, healthy life, whether you want to put health as in physical, mental, spiritual, relational, business, whatever it is. If you have 2 of those pillars, say mental and spiritual, but you're not taking care of your body, right? You're not eating the right foods, you're not drinking enough water, doing whatever you need to do to feel and look and perform the best that you can. Because there's a correlation between your physical health and your mental health. And there's a correlation between your spiritual health and your mental health and your relationships and those things. So I think that those 3 however you may see those things. And for me, I'm a Christian. I believe in God, and I believe that thing. So that is my spiritual side of things. I try and meditate and pray and show gratitude every morning. And these are things that I've tried to make habits in my life. But whatever it may be, I feel that having each of those things, being able to say each day at the end of each day, what did I do to progress my life mentally, physically, and spiritually? And when all those three are working together, that is when you will feel the most healthy. That is when you will feel the most vibrant. That is when you will see the results in your body, in your relationships, whatever it may be. And that's my belief on those big three things. And it's a continuous journey, like you said. It's a constant thing that you have to be cognizant of, because if you're not asking yourself those questions, you can easily get into, a cycle where you're neglecting all of them, or you're neglecting some of them. And not saying that every day you're going to feel it, but there will be times where it's like something's missing here. Like, where's this missing piece? I'm searching for something. I'm not feeling fulfilled. I'm not feeling happy. My relationships are struggling. I'm not doing good at work. I don't feel good physically. I don't have good self-confidence. Whatever it may be, there's a huge, bucket of things. But I think when those three things are working together is when you can feel the best and feel the healthiest.
Yeah. I think I think it was Tom Bellier that kind of brought up something like related to what you're saying. Is like, I know us as business owners, we're always like, we got to grind, and what can we do so we can be successful, whatever your term for successful is, and make the most money. But like he was saying in his example is like, I was a millionaire like on paper, but he was not happy, and that's where it kind of gets back to the idea of like, what's your purpose? Of like getting back to what you were saying with like the three different things. Like obviously business wise, he was doing great, but he was neglecting other sides to his life. And that's where it ultimately, and I'll admit on my side, my work-life balance sucked for a really long time. And it wasn't until even like recently, and I mean like really recently, where like, I was like, hey, I'm doing this backwards. Like everything is supposed to align with what you want your life to be. You're not supposed to be working for your business. But so many people had that thought process of like, I got to keep doing it. It's all about business. It's all about business. But what you're saying there in terms of like, it's all the sides together. And that's what like leads to fulfillment and like purpose and everything that goes on to it. So I love that. I think it's something that too many people have issues with because they always look at it from that one perspective.
Right. Yeah. And that's a question that on my podcast I ask a lot as well, because there's a lot of successful people on there, and I'm very big on the idea of balance too, because I know you are, as many other people, business owners, entrepreneurs, or anyone that's just working and have ambition and drive and want to be successful, right? But then that's the whole coin term, like, what is success to you? And I think, am I a billionaire coming home to an empty home that's really quiet? And, my friends, I've neglected my friends. I've neglected my relationships. I've neglected my self-care. But I have millions of dollars in the bank. I mean, that doesn't sound like it sounds like I'd be a really lonely rich guy that's not happy. So yes, money is important. Yes, I want to make as much money as possible. But I realize that on the road to that, there's a lot of things that need to be taken care of that will lead to you doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that authenticity when it comes to sales, which is what I'm in, or authenticity when it comes to your relationships, and not just thinking about the bottom line and the bottom dollar, which oftentimes we can get into that, thought process. Obviously, we're humans and we want to make as much money as possible and be as successful as possible. But I think that culture these days, especially with Instagram and especially with just the way the world is at times, there's so much emphasis put on, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at this car that I have, look at this thing that I have, and look at all these girls that I have, or whatever it may be. And a lot of those people are empty in real life on the inside. They're trying to portray something that they aren't. And that's another thing that we talk about a lot on the podcast is vulnerability and being real and being authentic. and knowing that people see through the bullshit, and knowing that when you are real and authentic, whether it's in business or relationships or whatever it is, and being real and authentic with yourself first and foremost is when you see the most results. Because I feel like a lot of times we don't want to look in the mirror, and we complain about this or complain about that, or we're not happy with this or not happy with that. But then we're never doing the things to change that circumstance. We spoke on books. Right now I'm currently reading a book by Grant Cardone. It's called 10X Rule. Mm-hmm. And it was written a little while back, but it's very focused on goal setting, business oriented, but he kind of talks about the whole package as well, as far as his goals, writing things down. And in his goals, it's okay, I want to own this much money in real estate. I want to have a better relationship with my wife, better kids. I want to be the biggest donor at my church, and there's all these things, and you see the whole picture. But for him, and I've heard this said by multiple very successful people, that there is no limitation on success. There is no shortage of success in this world. It's out there for everybody that's willing to do the right steps and the right things to get there. And there's no shortage of success. So that sentence and that saying is something that I think is important, because oftentimes we compare ourselves. Oh, this guy is here, or this girl is here, or he's 25 and he's made $1 million this year, or he's getting married, she's getting married, they have kids. Where's my person? These things that we talk to ourselves and the way that we tell ourselves, and especially with social media and Instagram and all these things, it's comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that it's easy to do that, especially today when everyone's trying to shove their highlight reel in your face. So that's where I think the authenticity is refreshing, and people feel that and they relate to that because it's real.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you, like, I loved when you asked that question. I've been using it like all the time since then. I never really thought of it that way, but then I think you asked me, I think, when I was on yours, I'm like, I love that. And I think I pretty much use it on every interview since. It's like, I want to know, because like when you brought that up, I'm like, that's really cool. I want to know what other people think too. So I pretty much co-opted it, and now I use it all the time too. So
hey, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny when I ask people that too, because many times, I mean, there has been times where it's off the top, but there's most of the time it's a silence. They're like, man, I really haven't thought about that. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. You have to have a vision, and you have to have, a moral background and where you stand. You have to know that, because there's always going to be things that are failing in your life. You're always going to fail. There's always going to be things that don't go the right way. There's always going to be days that seems like nothing goes right. But you have to have that solid background and that solid ground to stand on, right? And that's where those 3 pillars come in also.
Yeah. And I think what you were talking about earlier is something that I really like too, because the idea of actually looking in the mirror, because you can, like, the people that are like with the Lambos or the girls or whatever it is, where like you can fool people, right? That they're not being authentic. They can even get away with it in some situations, but at the end of the day, they got to look at themselves in the mirror, and are they really like, when you look at the idea of content and happiness and everything that goes along with your life, to be that person and have that fulfilled life, at that point you're ultimately the person that knows what's going on, and you got to deal with that. So no matter what you're going to do is, yeah, you can try and fool people, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to do you no good, right?
Right. The first thing that came to my mind when you said that was, you can't lie to yourself. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it, I'm like, you can lie to yourself. People do. I do it sometimes, like all the time. You lie to yourself and say, oh, I'll do this later, or I'll do that later, or I'll make this. I mean, you say these things, and I think that the biggest thing is self-awareness when it comes to that. It is knowing when you're lying to yourself and trying to finagle yourself out of whatever situation, whether it's something that you don't want to do that you know you need to do. It's a weird thing, but I think that just comes back to self-awareness and being honest with yourself first and foremost. If there's habits that you've created, whether that's eating unhealthy or drinking too much, or not overworking yourself, not putting time to self-care, neglecting relationships, holding on to grudges. I mean, whatever it is that you feel is weighing you down. And if you really look inside and think about it, it's pretty easy to realize, oh, this is something that's been bothering me, right? Mm-hmm. Until you come to grips and be honest with yourself about those things, and then, make the change once you realize, do the necessary steps to make that change. And then it's not going to change, right? And that's the same thing with goal setting and saying, okay, I want to make $1 million this year. Okay, how am I going to make $1 million? That's the next question. Cool. You got the first part down. You set the goal. You put it in the world. You wrote it down. Now what? How am I going to get there? Okay, I'm going to make 20 more sales calls. I'm going to send 50 more emails. I'm going to do that and then be consistent with it, right? And then make it a habit and then see the fruits of your labor from it. But if you don't do the second step, then it's not going to happen, right? If you don't come through with what you know you need to change, or you don't come through with what you know you need to do to have better physical health or better mental health or have a better business, then those things won't happen.
I think I guess I can only speak for myself, but I think most people, they really know what needs to get done. If you've been at, say, e-commerce or business or anything like that for a decent amount of time, you probably know. None of it's that complicated when you actually think about it.
Right.
But like, you always think to yourself, oh, no, I can't do this, or well, I got to do this first and then that. But you really do know, but you're making it way too complicated, and you end up lying to yourself a lot of times in terms of well, I can't do this or whatever it is. The idea of actually being honest with yourself. I know that there's some days I just don't want to do it. And then at that point it gets to your vision. Obviously, you were talking about a little bit. It's all right, well, do I want to be right where I'm at again in 6 months, or am I going to put in the work and figure out a way to get over this obstacle, in my mind? So yeah, definitely, I would say, in terms of what you're saying, that's really something I think about too, and I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of gets me into another question I got too. Is so what's your purpose for doing what you do?
So my purpose with Breathin Air is, I always say that this is a journey, right? I say, welcome to the journey when I'm talking to the listeners, and it's talking to myself as well, because I don't want to come on the show and say, oh, I don't want you to think that I'm coming on saying, I know so much more than you. I'm going to make this podcast so that you can get something from my wisdom. It's not that way at all. It's welcome to the journey, because we're all on a daily journey. We all are on a daily walk. And the meaning behind that, everyday action, extraordinary mindset. There's not a lot of things that we can control in this life. There's really not. And I think now more than ever, people realize that. So everyday action, what are you doing to do your part? And then your mindset. You can face adversities with a negative mindset, and because they will come, but you control your attitude, and you control your effort, and you control the action that you put in and the things that you feed yourself. So really being able to take control of the small amount of choices and decisions that you have, and realizing that you can't control it all, but controlling what you can control, right? There's a saying that we used to say in college for our football team was, control the controllables. There's going to be times, it's a team sport. It's a team game. Life is a team sport. There's going to be times where things happen that you don't want to happen, but what do? You have a short memory and you go on to the next play. If you let those mistakes carry over, say you drop a pass, you miss a block, whatever it is, throw an interception, and then you hold on to that for the rest of the game, well, guess what? The rest of your game is going to suffer because you're living in the past. And it's the same thing. You have a bad day, you have a bad couple hours at work, you started the day wrong, you got in a fight with your spouse, whatever it may be, you hold on to that. whether it's holding on to it for a day and letting it affect the rest of your day and how you treat people, or months or years. I mean, you see people hold on to things for years and years and years, and that sometimes never get reconciled. So it's about knowing you're going to fail, failing, and then moving on. And that's what the show is to me, is how can I help people, and how can I pour into their life in a positive way in a world where there is so much joy sucking, and there is so much bickering, and there is 24-hour news networks that hate each other, and there's all of these things, right, that can drag you down, and that are clickbait, and that whatever it may be. I want to be able to be a positive light in that sense, and also learn on myself, realize that I'm part of this journey. You're part of this journey. We need positive reinforcement in our lives. We need people who are going to pick us up when we feel down, and we need that support system. So that's what Breathin Air is to me. And it's almost just as much therapy for me as it is for everyone who listens. And that's what the beauty of it is I'm being able to get poured into by people that are way smarter than me in business or in mindset or whatever it may be. And then I'm also being able to help other people at the same time. So it's a win-win situation, right? But that's the biggest thing. It's a community, it's a family, and I will continue to do it, and I hope that it continues to help people. And it's been good so far. I think we're on week 26, going on 26 weeks. So it's been good so far, and I've learned a lot, and people have been enjoying it. So it's been a good process so far.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I love being on it, and what I love is like the whole idea of the positive mindset part. I mean, this gets back to absolutely what you were talking about before, and I've heard it all the time. Like, how are you going to choose to live your life? I mean, thoughts are going to come in, but are you going to work on how are you going to deal with those thoughts? And that's where, like you were saying, when you are looking for people, like you were saying with the you are the 5 people that you're surround yourself with. You are your network, right? That you surround yourself with. I mean, that's what's great about your show, and that's why I like listening to it. It's like you want to be like those 95% of the people out there that are negative and unhappy with their life, or do you want to be like the Bill Gates of the world and Warren Buffett's and all those kind of people? The reason why they're successful is not, yes, they're doing great things, but they have to have their mind in the right place to be able to do those things. So
2 things that I always tell myself, and you just kind of touched on it there. Your network is your net worth, right? The people you surround yourself is a huge thing. Your friends, you're the average of your 5 closest friends is a huge thing. And being able to weed people out of your life that aren't putting positive things into your head, aren't pushing you, aren't driving you. And then the other thing was, it's not the feelings that you have, it's the feelings that you attach to, right? So it's okay to feel scared, or to feel, depressed, or to be anxious, or to have these feelings. They're natural feelings, but it's when you hold on to them and you don't embrace them for the time and know that this too will pass, or the times that we're in now. Corona is not going to be here forever. Okay. There's going to be some normalization eventually, whether it's 2 years or 10 years from now, I don't know, but it's not always going to be like this, right? It's still very early. So it's more of a ride the wave, right? Realize that you're not in control of everything. When you try to control everything, you're not going to get anything other than upset with yourself, because everything's going to go to shit. So it really is about, taking in the feelings that you're having, knowing that it's normal, knowing that it's human, and not being ashamed of them, not being scared of them, and then moving on and saying, okay, this is how I feel. Let's take a step back. I just got in a fight with my wife, or I just got in a fight with my boss, instead of, just spouting off right away, taking a step back, saying, okay, deep breath. Where am I at? I don't want to say something I'm going to regret. I don't want to act out of emotion. And I feel like oftentimes we do act out of emotion, right? We're humans. It's human nature to act emotionally. But oftentimes when you make emotionally driven decisions, they're ones that you usually regret. So I think that's a big thing, and something that I try and implement. Obviously, I'm very, very bad at it sometimes. But we try. We're trying.
Yeah, yeah, and that all of us are a work in progress, right? I mean, that's just how it goes. This kind of leads me to a question I've got too, is that everybody, regardless of what situation they're in, they're going to have obviously like those negative thoughts are going to creep in. There's even going to be parts where like you're in a funk for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
and for what like maybe you just aren't in the mood for whatever reason to get the job done, or you're trying to get over some obstacle and you just can't get there. So like in those situations, what have you tried and what's been successful for you?
It's so crazy that you say this, because literally just this couple last days, I've been in a bit of funk myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started coming out of it over the last 24 hours. And it's something that, like I said, I have to repeat these things that I'm saying to myself, because I preach these things and I say these things, but implementing them in your life is harder than just hearing them and saying, oh, that was a good point he made. Like, that was a good thing. Like, yeah, I like that a lot. That's great. Okay, let me go back to my normal life and not implement what he said. Like, right? There's all been times where we've heard something like, oh, that's awesome, I love that. And then we just go about our daily lives and, don't actually use it. Don't actually put the action in to help our life and to help the situation that we know needs help. So, like I said, I mean, it's funny that you asked that, because that is something I'm repeating all these things to myself. Like, all right, this is just a wave. This is something that you got to just embrace, go to the gym, work it out, do some meditating, read, call your mom, call someone that you want to talk to, those kind of things. And it's okay to ask for help too, right? So I'm not feeling good. I've been in a funk. Call one of your close friends. Call your mom if you can. Call your dad, whoever you're close with and feel comfortable with, opening up and being vulnerable. Because if I would have sat with that feeling that I was feeling the last 48 hours or whatever, and I was just sitting with it and I'm like, I don't feel good. Don't feel like doing work. I just feel depressed or whatever you may feel at the time. If you just hold on to it and you don't get it off your chest and you don't talk to people, and that's the whole thing about the community and the surrounding yourself with those kind of people. Because when you are surrounding yourself with those kind of people, there's no hesitation to pick up the phone. There's no hesitation, because those are people that understand and are compassionate and are loving and care about you and know that you're not a perfect human and want the best for you. And those are the people that you don't hesitate to call, right? And you don't feel ashamed to call. And I think that shame thing is a big thing that a lot of people don't realize runs their life. Like, they're ashamed of something they do. They hold on to this shame. I'm not good enough, or I should have got this promotion, or I'm ashamed of this decision that I made. And then we hide and we, get in the turtle shell and we just crawl up into a ball. And it looks different for everybody, right? The whole, it's an awful thing when you know somebody who's committed suicide or something like that. And oftentimes there aren't signs. Sometimes there is, but sometimes there's not. And it's because those people feel like they cannot reach out to people around them sometimes, right? So just being vulnerable, being okay with not being okay sometimes, right? And knowing that this is a journey that we're on, and knowing that it's something that we're all in together, right? I think now even we really see parties against parties in politics, or whatever it is, black, white, race, all these things that are tearing us apart, when in reality we should all be trying to come together, because we all are humans and we all want the same thing, right? We all want to get along, and we all want to have a good life and have a successful life, and those kind of things. So I think it's about being vulnerable and about being able to, open up and speak your truth, and not try and be somebody that you're not. Because oftentimes we try and portray what we think others want, right? And that's a big thing for me too, is something I struggle with, is being so concerned with what other people think. And that was a part of me starting this as well, starting the Breathin Air podcast, was being my true self, speaking my truth, and being vulnerable and opening up on things that maybe I haven't and maybe things that I've tried to mask before, whether that's with being an athlete or whatever else it may be, but being open with how I feel and realizing that when I did that, so many people have reached out and said, wow, this is something I was struggling with in my life. Wow, you said, hey, you need to be vulnerable and you need to give credit where it's due. Well, I've really enjoyed this episode and it helped me. That's the best feeling in the world I can get, is knowing that I helped somebody else from just telling my truth and just being vulnerable and being upfront. So that when I got that feeling of, hey, this is the best feeling in the world to be able to help somebody else, then that just drives even more, knowing that I'm following my passion and I'm following something that, I'm meant to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's something that everyone, if they're thinking about it realistically, when they're going through those times, whatever they are, the odds are, especially when you're talking about business and entrepreneurs in general, what you're going through, other business owners are going through too. You just feel like you can't talk about it for whatever reason because it's going to make you look bad or something like that. But yeah, the people that are actually, like, for whatever reason, they're able to put that out there and say, this is what I'm feeling. Like, I know that I've seen it on both ends, where like, I see this one person that's putting something out there. I'm like, this is exactly how I feel. I've dealt with that same problem. Or sometimes I'll go in the other route, like you're saying that you've done, where like, oh, I'll just let people know about this, and I'm sure that the other people are feeling the same way about it. Like what we're going through, we think a lot of times, oh, well, this is terrible or whatever the case is, but other people are probably going through the same exact thing. So just kind of like being able to reach out, like you're saying, is really helpful.
Right. And that's where the rituals and the habits that you have in your life come into play, right? The gratitude journals that I've been trying to be consistent about lately. And all that is simply when you wake up, not letting the alarm go off for 10 minutes and rolling around in bed. When the first 10 seconds of your day, whether it's in that internal clock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm up. Whether it's making your bed in the morning, so that's your first win, you've done a task, or whether that's going and taking 5 minutes to meditate and say, okay, I'm thankful that I'm here right now. I'm thankful that I'm in this place. I'm thankful that I'm having this conversation with you, Douglas. I'm thankful that I have clean water to drink and a roof over my head, or family, friends, whatever it is, something small. It could be something big. I'm thankful for that promotion I just got, or whatever it is, right? Just being able to like be in that moment and say, thank you is a big thing. You'll see how much it trickles down in the rest of your life and what it also attracts. The law of attraction, right? What you're putting out into the world will eventually come back to you and be attracted to you. If you're putting out bad things or you're doing certain things that you shouldn't be doing, usually those are the people that kind of gravitate towards you, right? They, misery loves company. But if you're putting out good things and you're putting out good energy into the world and you're being, compassionate and you're treating people the right way and just doing the right things, right? It seems simple, but it's something that all of us struggle with. And it's that consistency aspect that's the biggest part.
Yeah, those are definitely great thoughts. And I would like to keep you for much longer, but I don't want to. I want to make best use of your time here. So I guess it's kind of we're heading down the home stretch. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully you can come on again, because I love talking to you about this. This is mindset and obstacles and everything is something I love talking about, and hopefully everyone listening too. I mean, everyone's feeling like this, so it's good to kind of get this help. Thank you so much for helping in terms of your story and your insight. So I guess what the last thing I would say is like, so how can our listeners find out more about what you do?
Yeah. So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's at Breathin Air Podcast. It's breathing, but no G. So Breathin Air Podcast on Instagram. It's on all streaming services. It's on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast. If you go to my Buzzsprout website, it'll have all the links there as well. So you can find me on any of those. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything that you heard that you want to talk about, that you feel like you don't have someone to talk about with, DM me. I'm open to talk about any of it. So anything along the lines of the 3 pillars that I talked about, physical, mental, spiritual, if there's something that you have a question about or anything along those lines, I'm here. And hopefully you all enjoy and listen to Breathin Air when you get a chance. And I'm at your disposal. So thank you, Douglas, for having me on. Definitely. We'll have to do it again. There's lots of stories we can talk about.
Yeah, next time we can get into sports and music, right?
Yeah, I got lots. We got lots. Sports and music. I mean, just talk about adversity. We'll leave them with a little teaser. I tore my ACL twice in college. So that was or in high school. So that was an early way for me to learn how to deal with adversity and going from a high to an extreme low and having to start over and those kind of things, right? But it builds character and, it makes you better.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely a good teaser for next time that we'll have you on. All right. Well, thank you. And so it's Mason Bendigo, and thank you again. And so for everyone listening, we'll have those links in the show notes as well. So thank you for being here, everyone, as well. And I'll talk to you next time.